Trustee Healy. Here. Trustee Katsinas.
Here.
Trustee Malani.
Here.
Trustee Compass.
Here.
Trustee Reardon.
Here.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Here.
Mayor Pico.
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the October 16th, 2023 Committee of the Whole minutes.
Mr. Mayor,
Trustee Katsinas.
I move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of the Committee of the Whole of October 16th, 2023.
Second.
Questions or comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Special Recreation State Softball and Golf Champions.
So it's my pleasure to honor the Special Rec State Softball and Golf Champions. And I'm going to read this and read everyone's name, and if everyone can come up and we'll take a picture. And those of us who've been around this know that we have a fantastic special rec program. The athletes, the coaches, the parents that support it, and the town is very supportive. The Orland Park Owls softball and golf team participated in the Special Olympics Illinois State Championship on September 9th and 10th and earned gold medals. The softball event was held in Springfield at the Land of Lincoln softball complex. Over 30 teams participated from across the state. The Owls earned the gold medal in dominating fashion, beating the Vaughn Eagles 14-6 in Game 1 and the Nisra Knights 15-3 in the championship. Golf was held in Decatur at the Hickory Point Golf Course. The Orland Park Owls golf team had one athlete, Laura Cerny, competing in a 9-hole competition and won both rounds. So first to our Owls softball athletes, and I'll call you up, and then once I call everyone up and call Laura up as well, then we can all come up. Joseph Alscanis, Christopher Bauman, sorry if I mess up some of these names, Jacob Bellevue, Stuart Cunningham, Mike Fitzpatrick, Daniel Hardigan, Linda Calamine, Kevin Kelly, Jeffrey Klimek, Melissa Lawrence, Brendan Leahy, Lindsay Mancuso, Tom Olson, Vinnie Paparelli, Noel Pluda, Terry Quinn, Mike Rush, and Stacy Swaringa. I'd also like to thank the coaching staff, Deborah Northrup, assistant coaches Kara Halgren, Jessica Graben, and Lydia Kenyon. So thank you for a great job. On our Owls golf team, Laura Cerny, whose head coach is Claudia Petnich, assistant coaches Michaela Trail and Deborah Northrup. You get a lot of coaches for one person on the golf team. Get some real special attention. And as those people here know, I still play softball, and I also play a lot of golf, as does a good number of our board members, both on that end. Yeah, couldn't we all? So congratulations on the state championship. At the Village of Orland Park and the board and myself, we're all very proud to congratulate all the athletes and thank all the coaches and parents for all the support on these championships. So fantastic job. Let's give them a round of applause.
1, 2, 3, state champs.
1, 2, 3, state champs.
All right, great job, everybody.
Congratulations.
Oh, sorry.
For you thought I forgot.
I thought you were having a senior moment.
Gasoline and diesel fuel bid award.
Mr. Chairman, I move to recommend to the village board to accept the bid for gasoline and diesel fuel and related services to Petroleum Traders Corporation of Fort Wayne, Indiana for 3 years, fiscal years 24 to 26, with the option to extend annually up to 2 additional years, fiscal year 27 to 28, per the terms and pricing provided within their October 27, 2023 sealed bid for an amount not to exceed the board-approved budgeted amount.
Second.
Any questions or comments? So it looked like it was a close bid, as we might expect from a couple of bidders, but if you could give us a quick rundown.
Yeah, we had the 3 bidders that were very close, because really the cost of the fuel is a variable. And so it really comes down to how much cost does it take to actually deliver it to the site. And so one of the factors is good service when we factor that. Therefore, we recommended the Petroleum Traders. They have been our supplier for the past couple of years, and they do an excellent job of bringing the fuel to the site.
Okay. Any other comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Schussler Park turf field fees.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Malani.
move to recommend to the village board to approve renting the Schussler Park artificial turf field at the hourly rate per resident category as presented.
Second.
You want to walk us through this really quick?
Absolutely. This will be very quick.
That'd be great.
So Schussler Park is due to open in the spring of 2024. In the slide here, you can see all the different features that are going to be included in the renovation of the park. Key to it is the 2 artificial turf football fields that'll be home of Pioneer football. These are the fees that were recently approved by the board. These are the grass turf fields. So these were just recently done. This includes the twilight fees, so you can see all of these fees there. In this slide here, you can see a comparison of other artificial turf complexes. This is resident and non-resident rates. You can see in the resident rates, they range from $85 per hour to $150 per hour for residents and $105 per hour to $210 an hour for non-residents. So just for comparison, we did talk about fees that were a little bit higher than what I'm going to show in this next slide. But in talking with our athletic groups, we felt that starting a little bit low on the first year would make it more affordable. The current fees that groups pay is for a 2-hour slot. So this is going to be a 1-hour slot is what these fees will be. So you can see the different categories of the fees that we charge, and they range from $50 for resident organizations with 90% plus residents to $160 an hour for groups that have less than 50% residents. The fee for using lights is only $5 more per hour. So that's what we're proposing starting in 2024. We expect to raise approximately $58,000 in the use of the fields, and that's based on the amount of turf or practices that Pioneer Football currently uses, and then projecting some of our soccer groups moving over there to use the fields. Depending on weather availability, a lot of different factors, it could be higher. We don't expect it to be lower, but it really depends on weather and whether groups are interested in moving over there, which we expect that they would be. This was approved or presented to the Recreation Advisory Board in August, and they unanimously approved these fees.
Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Reardon.
Yeah, I agree, starting at a real reasonable number to see where we are, collect the data, see where we go with next year, what times and seasons people use it more, and then you can see where the demand is and kind of adjust accordingly. I think you start out too high, you discourage people from maybe moving their organization over there, and I think we want to get a lot of use out of it, so I like the plan.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Malani.
just out of curiosity, how do these revenues compare to what we were getting out of Schussler Park prior?
I don't think we were getting much out of Schussler Park previously.
Not even for the baseball, not much. From that.
Very little. There was a little bit of baseball revenue, but not any of the soccer field revenue.
Okay, thanks.
Any other comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye. And by the way, if you haven't gone by and looked at Schussler Park during the day when they're working on it, you should go take a look. It's pretty cool, all the work they're doing there. How many of those 800 things we have placed? Okay, great.
Affirmation of the selection of General Communications, Inc., GenComm, by the Orland Joint Emergency Telephone System Board, OJETS, to upgrade the public safety grade radio system and microwave network.
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Reardon.
I move to recommend to the village board to affirm the Orland Joint Emergency Telephone System Board in awarding the public safety grade radio system and microwave network upgrade project to General Communications, Inc.
Second.
Chief?
So, Mayor, trustees, we have representatives from GenComm here to give us a brief overview of the radio upgrade.
Hello, I'm Gary Pelletier with General Communications, also known as GenComm.
Which is like?
So we're based out of McHenry, Illinois area, and we proposed this radio system as part of a competitive bid offer. So we just wanted to go over a little bit of the highlights of this system. So if, there are locations. We've got 5 locations total. We recently, about 3 years ago, merged and acquired Radicom out of McHenry, and that's now part of the GenComm team. Been in business for more than 50 years, doing a lot of public safety radio systems. Next slide. There's a new location. We just moved this past month into a new 16,000 square foot facility. We're doing a lot more projects in this area, and we needed the more space for the project. And we'll be staging the radio equipment in that shop first before we then, and test it before we start installing it out here. Next slide. So the upgrade, basically, we're going to be using 11 total sites to cover 95% coverage throughout the village. That is part of a standard public safety radio system. They ask for 95%. A lot of them will get to 99, close to 100, but nobody ever wants to guarantee 100%. But you will get really good coverage off this radio system, much better than you have now. Currently, I think it's a 2-channel or 2-site transmit and rest is receive. So we're going to be simulcasting, which is a lot like cellular, but you'll be able to transmit from all the sites, so better coverage throughout the whole village. So, and there's basically a little bit of background of the radio. There will be 3 channels right now for the police, the PD TAC channel, and then there's also a 3rd channel. I'm not sure what they're gonna name that one or what the need is, but that's one thing the consultant requested was a 3rd radio channel. Okay. There's kind of a high level. You can kind of see most of the water towers in the village are used as transmitter sites, so that keeps your costs down, where in a lot of municipalities, they have to pay rent at tower sites. So the operational cost year to year will be a lot less expensive with a system like this. Next slide. Then, like I said, that's kind of like the current system. The 2 slots that are towers that are a little different with the beacons. Those are the ones at the top that you're currently transmitting, and the rest are all receiver sites. So we're going to incorporate more of the sites, and we're going to turn it into digital, where right now it's an analog system. Digital carries a lot further, just like your cell phones years ago were analog, and they've all switched to digital, and that's what the public safety is starting to go to. Next slide. So again, there's the proposed system. We're going to have 4 channels at this time, 4 towers at this time that'll be transmitting. The rest will be receiving. And the idea is we want to get the best in-building penetration, especially the large buildings, your shopping centers, things like that. They don't always penetrate with the radios as well. So putting in more towers like this with the digital will help that penetration. Next slide. That's just an example of the voting. So whenever someone keys up, the closest tower will receive that channel, and that'll get retransmitted by all the other transmitter sites. So you can have a portable radio on one end of the village talking to somebody on the other end, because whatever site you're closest to, it'll take that signal and rebroadcast it. So next slide. And then also part of this is a microwave. So all these radio systems now are IP based, just like everything else. So everything is an IP connection at all the tower sites. So we formed that IP network by a public safety grade microwave system, and we try to do a ring if possible. So what you see it's somewhat like a ring, but this way, if you lose one path between 2 sites, the system will continue to operate, because it'll still back the other way. A couple sites we couldn't do the ring, and that's the one in the south. And then the school, I think, is fiber. So the ones in yellow are fiber, and we're going to reuse that existing fiber to save some cost on that. Next slide. And there's just kind of a high-level design showing the different water towers and how we're going to connect everything up. Next slide. This kind of just shows you a portable coverage map. The green is actually good coverage in the village. So as you can see, there's not a lot of non-green areas. So if there's going to be any coverage areas, it'll probably be more deep inside of buildings or in basements of buildings. Next slide. And that shows what's called a 20 dB building. And there's very little white. I can barely see any. So again, it just shows you have really good coverage here. Next slide. And that's your mobile. Your mobile coverage is always going to probably be 100% everywhere where you're portable, because they never go in the buildings. They got an outside antenna. So next slide. And then we also proposed some new subscriber portable radios for the village. Currently, the radios that you have now are just single band VHF. You don't have the interoperability with other agencies that are not on VHF in the area. So the new radios will be a multi-band radio. It'll be able to talk on the Starcom radio system, anybody else on the UHF or VHF channels. So that's one reason they want to go to the new radios. And I think they plan on buying some this year, and then in the coming years, as the system grows and we get the system installed, they'll add more and more for the interoperability with other agencies. Next slide. And that's a little bit more about the portable. Again, it's multi-band. It's actually an LTE-capable radio. It can work its FirstNet, if you've ever heard of the FirstNet radio system, which is a cellular-based for LTE in future. So sort of a future-proof radio. When new technologies come out in the future, this radio has a lot of that can be firmware upgraded for those things. Next slide. And then the mobile radio, well, it's got a mobile counterpart that has a lot of those same features. Next slide. And that's about it. So any questions for myself or Richard?
Mr. Chairman.
Trustee Malani.
A couple questions. Originally, when I heard about this, I thought that our radios were kind of P25 ready. Is that only certain radios are P25 ready? So we're going to have to replace
So
some?
yes, your radios now are VHF capable. Some have the P25 software. Some need to be upgraded for the software. So you can do that. But the issue is really the interoperability with other agencies when you have to respond to those. So right now, the radios you have will start working on the new system, but I think over time, they want to slowly replace the radios so they can work with other agencies better.
Okay. And they're obviously P25 compliant. Are we going to be doing trunking, or is this going to be single channel?
This will be actually conventional simulcast. It will be P25, but it'll be conventional. Trunking, it adds another couple million to a price tag on a trunking system. And normally, if you're not doing a lot of channels, then this is very common.
If we had a much bigger network and
much bigger network, yes.
To think of
The only
that.
trunk channel will be with interoperability with Starcom, so we'll have a Starcom channel in here.
Okay.
Yeah, in the radios themselves, but not the system. Yep.
Yeah, and then we're doing digital, are we also doing encryption? Okay. And these are the radios similar to police department, I mean, the fire department uses, correct? They use Harris as well?
I am not aware of what they use, no, sorry.
Chief, you said, I think
Yeah.
they use Harris?
Motorola and Harris are the two big agencies now. Harris is actually what used to be GE Radio back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. And they do a lot of military. I'm a retired colonel from the Air Guard, and we use these radios in the military all the time.
All right, and last question, so currently we have like car-to-car capabilities, will that continue to exist?
Yes, you
with
will.
the new radios?
Yes, so if you ever have a system outage, you can still go car to car.
Okay, thank you.
So real quick, we provided demo radios for the police department for like last month. We loaded these onto the legacy system and they worked really well. Heard some rave reviews about the coverage, the performance, the signal back to the radio system.
Yeah, these have pretty good radio specs, so they work a little bit better than the current radios that you have now.
Work well at the mall, chief? It's obviously our biggest building, most people.
Yeah, actually, nothing but raving reviews from the mall to all the schools. We only had one location we were able to get inbound, we weren't able to get outbound, but it was in a very, very, a basement of one of the businesses inside the mall, so.
But with the new radio system and the new radios, you should have much better coverage then.
Yeah,
Because there's going to be physically another transmitter near that area, which is
Right.
false for that coverage.
right. Yeah, because looking at the coverage map, I mean, as we started going towards like Parker Road, 159th Parker Road, Route 6 out that way, we fade on the radios, like going out to do weather spotting and things like that. So it's like we get farther out and it's like, okay, now we're, hoping someone's close, so we do car-to-car,
Yes.
things, right? So this looks like a much better coverage.
Yep.
Chief, is there a tornado we need to send them to now? Is one coming?
You trying to get rid of me or what?
Mr. Chairman.
Trustee Compass.
So just a quick question. I think the fact that we'd have better interoperability for mutual aid situations is worth it by itself, but I think the other thought is, I know I saw in here the GPS aspect, so I'm assuming that we've already checked that it's completely compatible with our FUSA system, or is there any other considerations there?
So we already have technology in place for the GPS. This will be an additional backup if need be.
Fantastic. That was it for me.
I think also the big key here was the LTE redundancy for 5G, working on the 5G network, just in case.
Yeah, the radios do have that LTE capability. There is another integration piece that I know they're not getting, but it would also, if you had a person like a chief that traveled a lot, he could still listen in on conversations even if he's in another state.
It's basically
Give me an idea.
nationwide push to talk.
Yep.
Great. Okay, any other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Radiszewski.
just out of curiosity, what's the timeline of that?
A lot of times it depends on your timeline. Some of the things we have to do is we have to do some interference measurements, and then we have to get all the towers, have a structural engineer look at all the towers to make sure they can support the additional antennas and weight. Sometimes those can take several months. Normally, I think we looked at a one-year timeline that we'd have this done by this time next year.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas. Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Schussler Park All-Inclusive Playground Concept.
Mr. Chairman.
Trustee Reardon.
I move to recommend to the village board to approve the Schussler Park all-inclusive playground concept by Burke as presented. The final playground design and scope will be dependent upon the overall total funds raised through the campaign fundraising effort.
Second.
Ray.
I'm pleased to present these concepts to you tonight. I'm going to go ahead and just start off with the overview of the park and the Phase 2. So this does include the main feature, which is the all-inclusive play environment. It has a picnic shelter pavilion. There's an arch gateway plan, sort of an entry feature to welcome kids to the park. You'll see a sports timeline representing Michael Schofield and Kendall Coyne Schofield. There'll be a sponsor board, so those who support the park financially will be recognized at the park. Bike racks, of course, and then a half basketball court. When we began this process, we invited 4 different manufacturers to submit proposals. You can see these proposals here. They were from Burke, New Toys, Compon, and Playworld. So you can see those initial concepts here. You can see in this slide, when you're considering playgrounds, especially an all-inclusive playground, you can choose a ramped or a non-ramped type of structure. Because this playground is intended for kids with disabilities as well as those without disabilities to interact together and play together, that's the real feature of an all-inclusive playground, is everyone should be able to play together and interact together. We chose to move forward with the non-ramped playground, so you'll see that in the concepts moving forward here. Here you can see the concepts on the second round. So after we looked at all 4, we narrowed it down to Burke and Compound, and you can see the second round revisions here. So we went through this and looked at the key features. We liked features in both of the 2 concepts, but we liked the Burke feature better, so we took some of the elements from the Compound and mixed them into the Burke feature, and you'll see that in the next slide here. So here you can see in this slide, this is the final concept. We think this is a really fun concept with a lot of different features. We chose this because we believe the individual features offer more play value, and it's a more comprehensive environment for kids of all ages and different abilities. This is just another view of that, the concept, the final concept. You can see some of the play elements for those with disabilities there on the bottom. So there's quite a few features there for children who may not be able to play in the features that are more elevated. This is just another overview with a full list of all the different features. So you can see in this slide, there's 32 features that go with the park. You can see also in this slide, if you don't mind, yeah, thank you. In this slide, there's different zones in the park, so there's different active zones. You can see the red zone is a more active area. The blue zone is a quiet area. There's a quiet chair there. There's a reading area there, and then the green area is, again, another a little less stimulating active area, but another active area. Some of the things that you will see in the features that we're proposing are this donor wall, and that'll be listed in the center panel. You can see Michael and Kendall represented there. Also included will be their accomplishments and the features of the Schofield Family Foundation. Kendall, Michael, and the Schofield Foundation will be helping us to raise funds for the park. Here again, you can see the donor wall, so that's represented by the different balls, different sports balls. There's the sensory stimulation map, so that shows the areas of high and lower stimulation, and then just some of the other features that you can see there. And that's a game, that's a component that kids can play that you can earn points as you play in the park. Some nice photo ops. So, Kendall, Michael, someone with might have a disability. That's Michael's reach there. Most of us, I don't think we're going to hit that reach. Joel might be able to. I'm not sure. He's up there. Some of the other components of the park. One of the things that we thought we would do out there is add Sandberg out there, since both Michael and Kendall attended Sandberg, so we'd have a flag out there for that. And then just some of the different custom panels that'll be around the park. These have some quotes by different children and people of different ages with their dreams and goals. This is just a sample, and so we would actually find children from Orland Park and get their goals and their dreams, and we would put them on these panels at the park. The budget is a pretty hefty budget. You can see the overall budget is $1.3 million. You can see that broken out with some of the contract and general requirements, the escalation over 2 years, and the soft costs. The next 2 slides break this down a little bit. So this is the playground cost. This is just the playground itself with the, again, the different costs outside of the playground itself. Phase 2 is the, this is the half basketball court and the pavilion. So that's represented in these fees here with these costs. The overall fees that we're looking to raise would be $702,000. There is already allocated for next year in the NRF funds $250,000 for the playground. The pavilion and the half basketball court and the site furnishings would come out of operational funds that will be potentially approved for budget next year. And again, the final, the final playground is really dependent on the fundraising effort. So if we achieve this, then we're going to build this just as it's presented tonight. Otherwise, we'll have to scale back a little bit. Happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor?
Trustee Healy?
I've got two questions. One is, George, at the public presentation, they talked about a possible, one of the audience suggested a stop sign at the corner there. Is there any movement on that, or?
That's something that is being followed up on.
Okay, so nothing yet, but, okay, and then the other thing is, Ray, I was wondering if, there's a note here for escalation. I'm just not familiar. I mean, there's contingency and escalation. I mean, they're worried about escalation of prices, or?
Yes. So if we don't engage in this, building this playground within the next 2 years, that's the expected price escalation just with inflation, rising costs.
Okay, but before you commit to something, you're saying you're not going to commit to a purchase of a piece of equipment for 2 years?
Until we raise enough funds that the board feels comfortable for us to move forward with that.
Okay, thanks.
And how many people did we send out cards for input, and how many gave input?
We invited over 800 and did a social media campaign to get people to attend the public engagement session. We only had about 20 people attend the engagement session, and those that attended really asked questions about phase one. At the end of the engagement session with the 20, they actually applauded the concept. I think they were very pleased with it.
Okay. And this was unanimously approved by the Rec Advisory Board?
The Rec Advisory Board didn't have a chance to look at this because we want to launch this effort quickly to start the fundraising. They didn't get a chance to see this yet.
Okay. And did they see the various options?
They have not yet.
Okay, well, that's kind of why they're here, is to provide us input. And personally, I would recommend that we go back to the Rec Advisory Board and get their input on this. Kind of bothers me a little bit that they didn't get any input. We went through multiple iterations and they didn't see it or were given input to it. It doesn't stop us from raising money. I mean, we're gonna do it, so it doesn't stop us from raising money for it. But I think it's pretty important that we get their input. We should have gotten their input along the way, so I'm a little bit disappointed that that didn't happen. Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Reardon.
What's the plan on the fundraising? I think I've already seen, and I think I already donated online somewhere for that. Are we continuing those efforts, obviously?
Yeah, so the Burke has an ADA coordinator that is experienced at raising funds for playgrounds like this. So we are working with her to develop a fundraising program. And then Michael and Kendall also were working with us to raise funds. So they'll be reaching out to their different, to their network to help us raise funds.
So is that already started, though? I mean, maybe I'm...
No, we were actually waiting for the approval of this to start all that.
Do we need to have this completely approved before we start, move forward with the fundraising? I guess you want to show pictures and stuff of when we're starting to...
We want to show the concept and
Yeah.
the financial goal.
I mean, at the end of the day, the Rec Advisory Board, we want them to help too. And so they haven't been included in the process, which there's a process for all our parks, I believe. And if this process wasn't followed. So my personal recommendation would be that we table this and send it to the Rec Advisory Board and get their input. And, if it delays it, it delays it. But frankly, the ball was dropped here to not bring it to them first, in my opinion. I mean, I'm fine with the concept, but that's not the point. We've engaged them and had them be involved for a reason.
I can certainly bring this back to them.
Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Compass.
I move this to the Recreation Advisory Board for consideration and recommendation to the Village Board.
Got to come from Brian to amend his motion. He should amend his motion to send it to.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I amend my motion to move to table and have the Rec Advisory Committee review this, hopefully with all deliberate speed, and get us back to us, hopefully by the next meeting.
Second.
Any comments on tabling it? Call the roll.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas. Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
employee health insurance renewal fiscal year 2024.
Mr. Mayor,
Trustee Katsinas.
I move to recommend to the Village Board to approve the employee health insurance renewal agreements with the recommended carrier vendors and associated expenses effective January 1, 2024.
Second.
I'm sure there's a presentation.
Regina, if you can introduce.
Absolutely. Good evening, Mayor and Village Board. As we move towards the 2024 open enrollment period, I've had the opportunity to share with you a high-level overview of what we're facing in the insurance market this year. We have Mike Wojcik and Cindy O'Toole here with us tonight from Horton to give a more detailed perspective on our renewal options.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Pico, Board of Trustees. Thank you very much for allowing me to be here tonight and review kind of the process that we have gone through with the renewal process for the employee benefits of the Village of Orland Park. I'm going to go through a quick slide presentation here to give you kind of a little bit of an idea of what has gone into healthcare this year. It's been quite volatile, quite challenged, and our plan was no exception to that. I don't have a clicker to advance. Okay, you'll get me? Next again. So state of the healthcare market, this is kind of where the components of what goes into a renewal, and it's basically based on how your plan performs. It's centered around trend, risk, and demographics. And trend, pre-pandemic, it's pretty much back there. It's medical trend at about 7%, but pharmacies at about 13%. Our plan from the village spends about 30% of our healthcare dollars on pharmacy. So it's been a heavy impact from that perspective. Trust of the healthcare system is very low. People have put off care for a long time, and now they're coming back and getting it. Greater frequency of high-cost claims as a result. Also, a greater amount of mental health conditions has really kind of surfaced through the pandemic, but it really started before the pandemic, and it's really an impact on our younger generations especially, but everybody is impacted by this. There's also been new advancements in pharmacy, gene therapies, CAR T-cell drugs. These are million-dollar drugs. They're not being used on our plan today, but they're impacting the market as far as the nervousness of reinsurance that these are out there. COVID charges are now back on our plans rather than the federal government. And then the next is the challenge in the cost of increases to our delivery system. Next slide. So the healthcare providers have been challenged throughout all of this. The burnout is high. Doctors have been leaving the industry. Nurses have definitely left early on during the pandemic. Just the burnout is tremendous. So in order to stabilize our care, the market was forced to pay much higher costs to these individuals to attract them back. And in many cases, they use temporary agencies. You may have heard of traveling nurses that were paid 2 to 3 times regular scale. And that also caused the regular scale nurses to say, hey, me too. So it's been wild in what's been happening here. So besides regular inflation, this is all kind of culminating now into risk. When someone gets sick, the risk that we are paying to cure them is cost more. Next slide. Hospitals of the future, they realize they have to change. They were operating in the red during much of the pandemic. They have certainly gone back to carriers to try to ask for higher increases. It's not always happened. They are creating value contracts to change the way they're reimbursed rather than a fee for service for everything they do. It's a bundled service. It's based on value, and it's actually, they're paid for their performance. So this is happening all around us. Larger systems are developing centers of excellence in specialty care, trying to get at the root cause to drive down the cost, to get better outcomes, less waste, lower overall cost. We're seeing more done on an outpatient hospital basis. About 70% of the village's services are being done on an outpatient basis, and that's for orthopedic care, medical infusions of these expensive drugs. It could cover cancer drugs, et cetera. A new venture called Hospital at Home is coming into play. As I mentioned, nurses there's a great shortage, so even in nursing homes, they are devastated by this impact, so the continuum of care is impacted. So a new entry is called Hospital at Home that are called lower cost sites of care, where they're sending patients home sooner to be cared for at home, monitored, et cetera, through a lot of equipment. Private equity is also rapidly entering the healthcare space. That doesn't always mean lower prices. Pharmacy, next slide. As I mentioned, the headwinds with pharmacy has been large. J-codes is a new category of drugs. These are medical drugs. These are the infusion drugs that I talked about. These are out there. Biosimilars is the positive side of this. Our plan here at the village has about 70% of pharmacy spend is spent on specialty drugs. A few of those are coming up and losing their patent, which will be good news. Number one is Humira. So the cost will be, from the alternatives that our plan will offer, will be 30 to 50% lower cost. It covers autoimmune disorders. It is the number one category that we see for specialty drugs. There's a few drugs in this category of specialty that will not reappear next year. They're called episodic drugs. They're either for cancer or for infertility. So that's the good news on that. Next slide. Our performance, I think you received a lot of this, so I won't go through every inch of this data, but performance historically has been very good. We have collectively on a yearly basis averaged about 1% increase a year when we base that off of a per capita. So why is it so expensive and why does it keep on going up? I laid the groundwork on some of it, but our plan this year in particular has been hit by this risk factor quite heavily. Our large claimants and our intermediate-sized claimants, I'll call this another rebound year. 2 years ago, you recall, 3 years ago when COVID came about, our claims dropped. Nobody was going for care. They couldn't. The emergency was for COVID. The next year it rebounded. We had quite a bit hit. That's year 2020. Year 2021, we dropped again. Things stabilized. 2022, though, it might be off a year here. 2023, we came back heavy. It was 2021 that we were heavy. 2022 was lower. So it's kind of having a whiplash effect right now, still with large claimants and the illnesses that are being treated. Some of them are continuous. I got to be honest with you. The large claimants will still reappear next year. But what added to this year was a lot of the intermediate-sized claimants. Next slide. This just kind of shows how the plan has performed through August. I checked on it today. You ran about 116% of expected. We're at about 114 today. This should drop through the rest of the year to be at about 110% of expected. Why will it drop? Because a lot of people hit their maximum claims exposure for the reinsurance. The rest is paid by the reinsurance going forward. Next slide. Our fixed cost, so every year when we go out to shop, this is a category that we shop heavily. We shop reinsurance markets, and we gave you a list of who we all went to. And then we shop other carriers and basically said, okay, we're looking at the cost of reinsurance, we're looking at their admin costs, we're looking at what kind of rebates we can negotiate with them on our pharmacy. And then we're putting all that together, and over the past 5 years, our costs were pretty static, about $3,400 per employee per year. And that came about as a result of doing that shopping. What we can't shop is people's health. That's the remainder. 83% of our spend is basically on claims. The 17% is based on fixed cost. What have we done to better our fixed costs? Our fixed costs, we've negotiated with Blue Cross in particular, higher rebates, a special contract that Horton was able to negotiate because of our volume, where 100% of rebates that Blue Cross receives will be passed through to the village. Part of that is done as a part of a fixed cost offset. The rest will be trued up at the end of the year. So that's a positive. What have we done to try to control, let's go into the next slide, the cost of claims? Part of that is influenced by demographics. Like I said, actually, we've had an improvement. Our group has gotten younger. However, the risk still hasn't gone down. Our younger claimants still carry a lot of risk with them. The next slide is our retirees. That has also gone down. So that's working positively to you, and Horton can't really impact that other than just show you the results over the past several years of where that's at. Plan design is another thing that we constantly take a look at, and we realize you have collective bargaining agreements. Next slide. So the next few slides continue. One more. Kind of move into what we are taking a look at today. When I mentioned the value contracts, this is the new PPO model from Blue Cross, which kind of gets into a two-tiered system. The carriers negotiate a much stronger contract, value-based, for providers in Tier 1. They include many providers around here, the major players downtown, and whatever's not in there is in Tier 2. And Tier 2 presents a higher cost to the end user. Tier 1 is basically your benefits today. Tier 2, by choice, at time of service, people might use Tier 2 just because of long-term service relationships, et cetera. Those would have, they would have more out of pocket. This is called a Blue Choice Options Alternate Network. Every carrier is doing something similar. It's that value-based contract that I talked about. And actually, even though it's all collectively Tier 1 and Tier 2 is the same PPO network that you have today, the discounts that were negotiated are much higher. It lowers your rates. So that's part of what we are looking to introduce. The other part that we're recommending is communication services today. This is just a summary of all that. I won't go through it all again. But communication services, basically, people need help navigating healthcare. No doubt about it. It's one of the most complex. And it's always been by chance that everybody's done it in the past, or wherever the network sent me. Well, now I might have multiple choice networks, so what do I do? So we are looking and we are recommending a newer entry, about 5-6 years into the market, called HealthJoy. It's a concierge service, it's an app. It warehouses all of your benefits. It has an app, Joy, to talk to. There are medical services, telehealth, mental services, EAP, and navigational services. So I could ask Joy, what's a doctor in Tier 1? Joy will recommend a doctor within a certain number of miles or whatever I ask for. I always joke, you could ask Joy, set me up an appointment at a Tier 1 doctor located here, no parking costs, and a Starbucks on the corner. And Joy will do so. That's the future. And really, that's kind of what our folks on all plans need. Now, we have about 20 clients already on this that have experienced great results. With me today is Cindy O'Toole, client executive on our plan. Cindy helps manages the team and does a lot in the area of HR and human capital management. And you want to just say a couple words real quick on Health Joy? We're looking for that to be part of your plan.
So with Health Joy and the app that's out there, it has a feature where you can ask Joy, like prescriptions, which is a big cost, like where can I find my prescription at a cheaper place? So we joked about this, where somebody looked up a prescription, generic prescription, it was probably came back 4 different Walgreens within less than a 5-mile radius, and they all had different prices.
Even though they were part of your Blue Cross network.
So
That's the market.
yeah, it's just kind of crazy because they're all, Walgreens. Why are they different? So those are the different things because it's all volume buying and discounts. So because the spend is so high on your prescriptions, we need to look at different ways. And so one of the things with the navigational tool is that they can help find the lowest cost provider for those prescriptions. The other thing with Joy is not only is it app-based, but say somebody wants to call and talk to a concierge, they have the ability to do that too. And so that's a nice feature as well. There is a benefit wallet. So I don't know how many times HR gets a call, hey, I can't find my card, I'm at the doctor's office, can you tell me? It happens a lot. So everything is on the app, on the phone. You just click on the benefit wallet and it's gonna list every single one of your benefits. It's also gonna give you the group number and your member ID. So it's kind of nice because you can just show it to the provider. The other piece of Joy too is they can help with billing and looking at some of your billing stuff. They can do recommends for second what do you call that? When you go to a doctor and you need to get a second opinion. Sorry, just a long day. But they can help you get second opinions as well and find better providers for specialties. So it's just a really good tool. And I was on the phone with our Health Joy rep, and they realized that there's a lot going on. So they did a survey of their 13,000 people to see their high-cost claimants that are on Health Joy currently, and the effect having been on Health Joy, what it's doing for their high-cost claimants. And over the past 4 years, they have noticed that there's been a drop in their high-cost claimants of 21% over that time frame. So it really is driving people to use better providers, low-cost providers, and it's all reducing. So I love it. We have it. It's a great tool. So, I would recommend it.
Thanks. So this is innovation in the future. It's how do we control cost? That's certainly one of them. Horton has also added 2 registered nurses to our staff that are now looking at our clients on a deeper view to see gaps in care. That could, with the implementation of Health Joy, a lot of these communication pieces could be overcome. Members could be helped a little bit better. And again, ultimately get at the cost. Our page 20, the summary of our plan and our increase. On a spreadsheet increase, we're at 9.22%. If we implement the BCO for non-union, our bottom line on the spreadsheet comes down to 7.9%. And you should have received all of these, hopefully. Our stop loss remains with Blue Cross. The pharmacy would remain with Blue Cross. Our nurses, our health population health team would get more involved. We did quote UHC. They originally came in at fixed costs that were, and keep in mind, our fixed costs, we negotiated to minus about $20,000 from last year, and that's roughly flat throughout the past 5 years. UHC was about $455,000 higher for fixed costs, which we place a lot of emphasis on. And after we asked them for their best and final, they came down to $226,000. Still a considerable spread that we would not recommend. Next, please. So we're looking at, so I'm not sure if you want us to review the pricing. Our bottom line premium pricing based on taking the plan from 2 years ago. We put no price increase in last year to bring it up to date and bring it back to par. It'd be about a 17.6% increase in premiums. Our other lines of coverage are much less. They're basically everything else is flat with the exception of the dental. Similar reasons, bringing the rebound back brings it back to about a 7.66% increase on the dental in the premiums. The administrative cost was flat. Questions?
Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Radiszewski.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Cindy. I appreciate you going back and forth and trying to get the best rates. I know there's a lot of work that's involved. I have a question regarding the Health Joy. God bless you. You're bringing her up?
I'm bringing her back, just in case.
You mentioned how it will look for the price, and you were kind of like joking that it pulled up different prices from 5 different Walgreens. I'm curious, can it tell if a prescription is in stock? Well, I mean, if you like put it in the app, does it do that?
It won't go that, it's not that integrated, not today anyway. Not to say that's part of a future. But I will certainly recommend that to the HealthJoy folks. We have a great relationship there. We've had HealthJoy for 5 years and we've seen it grow tremendously of the capabilities and the use. The use continues to get higher and higher. And they boast that in their numbers. But most people don't know that when you go to and again, most of the folks here are on high deductible plans, or they're on the consumer-driven HSA plans. So they have a high deductible to meet first. So they should be more consumer-centric, and this would be a great experience for them to take advantage of that. Because they won't know right now, nobody knows probably, right? It's Blue Cross rates, they get the discount at all these pharmacies, but every pharmacy has its own pricing,
Yeah, I
even
didn't know that.
Walgreens.
And I have a second question, if you wouldn't mind. I'm assuming there's a price per employee for the
What's
app?
that?
Is there a price per employee for the app?
So the course starts at $550, but then it adds pieces to it. So you already have an EAP. That would slide back under HealthJoy, so that cost would be neutral, just coming back over. It's just down the road if you wanted to add other pieces to it. It does most of those essentials in that price range. But if we're gonna add other mental health, teledoc and things like that besides the EAP, you could build on it. But the starting core is $550.
Thank you.
And that covers the whole family, by the way, the whole family's use, whether they're on the plan or not.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Rudin.
more just of a comment. There's costs that are controlled and ones that we can have no control over. I think everybody's going through the same thing in terms of private industry as well. Educated consumers of health services. It's a huge problem in the corporate world. People just, they get the information. I'm sure, Regina, you send out all these, information, come to a seminar, listen. And it's hard. It's hard to break through that. I mean, we have it at my business. People just don't listen. They see the email, it goes right by. So my comment is everything we can continue to do, we have to keep pushing, even though you bang your head against the wall, trying to inform the employees of the village to be better, more educated consumers of healthcare. It's the one thing that we start shaping behavior, we start changing it, the industry will take notice, and then, you know, they'll adapt, and it'll be more affordable. Because these other things, there's not much we can do about them. People are going to get sick, costs are going to go up, but if we can control, if we can educate our workforce a little better, it might help us a little bit.
Yeah, you're spot on with your points. There's no doubt about it. We agree 100%.
And I know you guys do the same thing. You put on seminars, you give us information and
I
pass
mean,
out stuff to us.
We try to exhaust every cost containment opportunity there is before coming to this podium. And that's what we do every year. And those are running thin. Actually, the end consumer is the best to control that. And we need their help in the future. There's no doubt about it.
You were talking about communicating with employees and bringing up, so the app is here, but one of the features that Regina and them will have access to is push notifications, which is pretty cool. I actually did a behavioral health one to remind another municipality's employees about their teledoc mental health benefit. So it could be pre-set up, but that you can use for all different communications when it comes to health insurance, reminding people to do their primary care visits, because as Regina and I were shocked to find out when we were doing all of this stuff, primary care visits for the employees dropped this year for some reason, and substantially, which then leads to the higher claims because people aren't seeing their doctor, and so they're not managing their chronic care conditions, regular conditions, and then those things are getting, you know, by the time people go see the doctor, which is what's kind of happened out there right today, is instead of it being something simple, being treated at a low cost now has become critical. And it's costing everyone more money. So.
Thank you for bringing that up. These push notices are important. You recall last year we talked about international pharmacy as being, again, one of the cost containment tactics, strategies that we were looking at. We had one person use it this year. That person retired. They're no longer using it. Regina and crew pushed it heavily at the benefits fair recently, but that's something Joy could also do. Joy could remind people of these things, remind them of the benefit fair. And it's also helpful, like I said, for the family. Spouses are able to use it. So it's got a lot of value and more to future. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? So George, one question I have for you or for someone, because it says, because of what the motion says, and of course I can't get it up, love my iPad. It basically says renewal agreements with recommended carriers and associated expenses effective, but no, I guess what I want to know is exactly what are we approving? What is the board approving? Because it doesn't really say. So what are we actually approving?
So I think the easiest thing would be one of the attachments.
Yeah, it'd be really easy if we had an attachment that had a summary of what we were approving, but we don't.
So, Regina, can you just go maybe through these attachments and which one there's 4 of them, and which ones are the premium ones?
Sure, I thought that was forwarded already.
So there's, I'm not sure, you probably received a ton of information from us, I'm sorry.
Well,
There is a spreadsheet, it's called a medical spreadsheet, and it's basically approving that. There's 2 options. No plan changes 9.22% on the spreadsheet, which then converts to premium equivalents that are different than that, or the BCO option for the non-union members, which is 7.9%, brings the plan down to that, and it also converts to different premium equivalents. So by approving this, you're approving the premium equivalents that go with this.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, I have to abstain, but I guess my comment to the board is that I don't feel like we have the detail here to say exactly what we're approving here, and we need that.
Well, that was my question, man. Do we have it lockstep that if we approve an increase and the increases are, that the employee contribution is already set in stone, or is that something that we decide? Because I mean, privately, that's what we do. We decide, okay, this is the plan we're going with.
Every year we create premium equivalents, our underwriters and Blue Cross underwriters to match the spreadsheet. So there was another exhibit handed out that included the premium equivalents. And the premium equivalents, they go twofold. One, no plan changes, 17.6%. Plan changes with the BCO option for the non-unions members, 17.06. So it's either no plan changes, 17.6, or the BCO, which we talked about last year, we did not do at that time. It's added more providers even, more robust and more, our public sector accounts, we do 25 more of them are adding that as an alternative, bringing down to 17.06. Those are the premium increases. Dental increase would be 7.66%, and all the other lines are flat, no increase.
I can actually go grab it and send it to all of you.
So this still has to go to the village board next time. So it's up to the board, because again, I have to abstain, but my recommendation would be we can approve this and we can change it, but we need details. I mean, we need, and when I say details, we don't need 20 sheets with numbers everywhere. We need this is a summary of what we're voting on, and that's really not in here.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Malani.
looking at the legislation text, the last page 2 and page 3 is a summary of all of the results, and at the end of these, each line, there's the recommendation.
Right.
Is that what we're voting on?
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
and
the-
again, I
the
don't know,
healthcare premiums.
and we've got other issues with the fact that it had other summaries in there earlier. Again, I think that the approval needs to be more specifically what we're approving, not just something blanket. You specifically say, these are the things that we are approving, should be in the motion, at least attached, even if it's not read.
So it was anticipated that this would go on the Board of Trustees agenda. We'll table that, and on the next agenda, we will have a very specific motion that'll be part of the.
We'll
Board of
table, then I'll entertain a motion to table this motion, or actually postpone the motion until the next meeting, and we can do the committee of the whole and the board, and the Board of Trustees on the same night.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
I didn't hear the first one.
It was Trustee Compass, and then.
Oh.
Cindy was second.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Mayor Peacock.
Aye. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the committee. Oh, do we have any non-scheduled citizens and visitors for this meeting?
No, we won for next meeting.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Compass.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Mayor Peacock.
Aye. Committee of the Whole is adjourned. We'll start the regular meeting in 5 minutes. Sorry for the delay, everybody, but the hearing, everything else is dragged on, so we'll convene at 7:30.